Hello and welcome to the Show podcast, episode number 423. This week's episode, I am joined by Matt Chong. Matt is a lucid dreamer extraordinaire. He is a guide to lucid dreaming, and he hosts a YouTube channel where he dives into the different lucid dreaming experiences that he has, how to lucid dream, all the different tactics and tips and hacks you can do to lucid dream. And I followed Matt a while ago, and I've been following his journey. He's out in Hawaii. We have similar age children, and I know nothing about lucid dreaming. I knew what it was in theory, but I didn't know that it's actually something that you can harness and tap into, and there are different tips and tricks that you could do throughout the day to actually help you lucid dream. So Matt and I got into lucid dreaming, how we can dive into lucid dreaming, how to interpret dreams, and how we could actually manipulate the outside world, our actual reality, and bring that into a lucid dream experience. So I hope you enjoy episode number 423 with Matt Chong.
How's it going? This is Matt, Lucid Explorers on Instagram and YouTube, and you're checking out the Vinny Brusco Show.
And here we go.
There you go. That's the background I'm used to. There we go.
Fixed. All right.
You're up and running. All good, man.
Yep.
How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Went to sleep nice and early. So got like 8 hours of sleep. Hopped in the sauna before hopping on here. So
Nice. So you're all charged up.
Yep.
So it's what? Is it 4 a.m. there or 5 a.m.?
5. I just got up at 4.
What is that your usual wake up time?
No, normally it would be like 6,
Yeah.
but like number like 5:45, 6, just something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an early
And
riser.
then like my
yeah.
kids will be waking up. My kids get up at 6, so I gotta get up by then no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. How old are the kids?
7 and 2.
Okay. So mine's 6 and my son turns 2 on Sunday.
Oh yeah. Nice, man.
So we're in the same boat with that.
It's kind of nice gap. The older one can kind of help out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter is self-sufficient. So she's like, she can do her own thing. And like you said, she can help out every once in a while if need be.
Nice.
I feel like behind that curtain is just like a beautiful view of Hawaii.
It's my neighbor's house. Hey, I'm out this window here.
Yeah.
This one got a pretty decent view. You can see like Pearl Harbor and shit.
No way.
Can look out. Can see mountains. You can see like all the Ko'olau mountains on this side. So
Yeah, I feel like you move back that curtain, it looks like a scene out of like Moana. Like it's just like mountain ranges and like beautiful sky and the ocean.
and that is one thing. I get so used to seeing the mountains here, and then I grew up pretty much at the base of one of the mountains on the windward side. And when I go even to like went to Denver, and they get mountains around there too, but they're not like big green mountains.
Right.
And even though I guess those mountains are bigger, I think the ones here they look bigger. At least they did to me. Where like you're at the bottom and just like a straight up, freaking cliff and all green everywhere. But
well, maybe it's because of the greenery on it, and also maybe because it's just like the backdrop is so crystal clear. Like whereas like
yeah.
In Colorado, I've never been there, but you have like obviously mountain ranges. So like it's kind of diluted the size of the actual mountain, where maybe in Hawaii, it's just like these individual mountains that are carved out against the backdrop of like a clear sky.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
That's the way I'm thinking of it. That's the way I'm seeing it. Like I've never been to either one, so I'm talking out of my ass right now. But in my mind, it seems like Hawaii would have just very prominent, carved out like a stamp on like this backdrop, and I feel like Colorado would just have more of like it would just be kind of molded into the environment, like interwoven.
Yeah. I mean, especially especially the like where I live, because where I lived, it was at like the bottom of one of the bigger mountains, right? So it really was pretty dope.
So you're born and raised in Hawaii.
Yep.
How is that? Like, what's that like? I feel like Hawaii's like so. California and Hawaii are two places that I'm like just itching to go to. I feel like I mean I'm wearing flip flops right now. I'm a West Coast that type of vibe human being in general, and Hawaii always seemed like a place I'd love to just go and I'm like they're always offering like come we'll pay for you to live in Hawaii, and my wife's a teacher. I'm like come on we'll just pack up the family and go live there for 6 months. What's the fucking
Do
worst thing
it.
that can happen?
Yeah.
How is it out there? I mean, what was it like being raised in Hawaii?
Well, shit, I guess normal. I mean, it would just be like normal to me. I mean, it's been pretty nice. Surf, nice, decent weather. Although, it does seem to me like it gets really hot. So, like in summer times, it hits like, whatever, 95, 96, something like that, right? But like the 95 over here compared to like, I've been to Vegas a few times in like the summer, right? Because it's so humid.
Right.
So and I'm a very sweaty ass person anyway. So
Yeah,
it's
me
just
too.
like,
You and me both.
freaking just be like, just drenching the place. But shoot, it's nice. The people are great. You know, even what they have like, all like the racism stuff that's going on in the mainland. It's always been
Yeah.
kind of funny to us over here because we all mix and there is, I mean, I guess there is some for white people, but
Yeah.
but even that, it's not like it used to be. Like, I heard like back in the day they had like beat up the holiday. You know what I mean? Where like in certain places they would just have to scrap all the time. But yeah, since I've been around, that hasn't even really been an issue much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because you grow up in like this. I grew up in New York, so I guess if someone said to me like, "What's it like growing up in New York?" It's kind of hard to explain it, but in my mind, I imagine like growing up in Hawaii and that type of laid back culture and that type or what seems to be a very laid back culture and environment coming from New York and the East Coast and where everything is just so go 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 fast paced and everybody just there's a morphic resonance that's just like tight and tense and energetically just like always at odds, where I feel like a place like Hawaii, even California, I've been to Texas, it's kind of probably somewhere in the middle, where it's a little bit more energetically freeing and a little bit more like just you don't feel as tense, like the tension isn't in the air.
Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely has it over here. I mean, it's certainly laid back. You know what I mean? Everything is it is pretty chill. And I guess one way it really shows is like, so I've never been to New York, but we went to, I've been to other cities. I guess the first time that I actually noticed this was in San Francisco, though, where everybody beeps their horns at people, right?
Yeah.
And that like never happens here. Like if you beep the horn at somebody, you better be ready to throw down potentially,
Yeah.
because it's so rare. Like when you beep the horn, you gotta be pissed. I mean, either that or you do like little like like the beep beep kind
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, the gentle
That
one,
one's
like the
okay.
beep, beep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like hey, the light just turned green. But if you went like a hard, the guy's hopping out the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, just bringing my kids to school today, like I was at a light and someone was in front of me and they didn't go. I'm not a honker. I'm not like a go, like whatever. But the person behind me was like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah." Now, granted, they may be late to work. Who knows what their circumstance is leading into this moment? And I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But honking your horn is like that's just common practice. Like that's if you know what I mean. Like I'm not in that mindset, but
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many people are just like come on, like just in this rush. And it's definitely it bleeds into other areas of your life.
totally.
You know, how did you so let's I want to go back a little bit here and kind of start first for people who don't know, best in your words, what is lucid dreaming?
So, I mean, in a nutshell, it's simply just being consciously aware of the fact that you're dreaming while it's happening. I mean, so like in a simple statement, it's like that. Then it can go like the different levels of lucidity, right? Can go really far. Like for a lot of people, it could be like, say, they're having a nightmare, right? And maybe they realize they're having a nightmare, so they wake themselves up. Or maybe once they realize that it's even a nightmare, if they don't wake themselves up on purpose, just that realization is enough to kind of kick them back out of the dream and wake them up. So that's a kind of common way to do it. One way I like to think about it too is even if you're like, if you're really aware in the if you can recall a lot of the dream, right? Even though you weren't consciously aware of the fact that you were in it while it was happening. But for me, myself, I consider that to be, like a very early stage of it, where at least you were some part of your mind was there enough to really recall a lot of the dreams. So could even be that. That's kind of a gray area, but really, being consciously aware of the fact that it's happening while it's going on. And then maybe you can start to have some level of influence and decision over your actions.
That's where it really gets interesting for me, because I've never intentionally lucid dreamt, right? I never went into saying I'm going to attempt to lucid dream, but there are definitely dreams that either A, stand out for me, right? Or B, like you said, I had like I could usually it's around shaving my beard. And I'm like, wait a minute, I shaved my beard. And I'll like snap out of it. I know you had mentioned one where you had hair, right? And it was like it seemed like I haven't had hair in years. So I haven't shaved my beard in years. So it stood out to me. And then there are those moments where you'll stay in the dream, right? But you're still aware that you're dreaming. And then there's times where that will snap you out of it. How do you, as a lucid dreamer, shift past that snapping out of it? Is that something that you're consciously doing in the dream?
Definitely. So, I mean, you can get to the point to where you can actually keep the dream together, or even if it breaks down, you can build the dream back up, which is something that I just kind of lucked out doing kind of naturally. So, like for me, I was lucid dreaming. So my first ever one was like when I was like 5, 6-ish, something like that. But it was just a recurring nightmare I would have. So every time this dream would start, I'd be like, oh shit. Right. And I would just
Wow.
suffer through the whole dream. And it was, but I never really had any control of it. So I would have woken myself up out of it if I could have right back then. But then it was more when I was like, a teenager where I really started to have them and realize, okay, hey, I can actually do whatever the fuck I want to do, kind of, right? But so there's little tricks in there, like spinning is a kind of common one that works for some reason, right? So if you feel the dream breaking down, you can spin. One that I like to use a lot is I'll just focus at a certain point and try to like just to really bring it into focus and flush out the details. That works good. But a lot of it is really, I think, this would be like a daytime practice that could help with it. It would be like meditation.
Yeah.
Being able to lock your mind in on that thing or keep it locked in on the dream, in a nutshell, is basically what keeps it together and even gives you more control and everything like that.
So when you say gives you control in the dream, are you actually manipulating the dream itself and what's transpiring in the dream? Or are you still riding this wave of a dream, but now you're kind of playing with it a little bit? Does that make sense?
The latter. It's always the latter. I mean, basically, unless you're like you get some where you're even in like really, really good control, but even those, it, it's it's always something you're doing in tandem, right? Like when you become consciously aware, it's most of the time it's like you and your body. So it's like waking reality, right? It's you here, everything else out there, but everything else is your subconscious essentially, right? So you're always are working in tandem with that. So even when you are totally aware and say you want to, I don't know, make somebody appear, go teleport someplace, it is not really as easy as just like, oh, I think and I want this person to show up. You have to work in tandem with your subconscious to actually get shit to go. That's why it takes I mean, even for me, I've been lucid dreaming for years, but there still is some stuff I have a hard time doing. I mean, plenty of stuff I have a hard time doing. And sometimes things will work out really good sometimes, and I won't be able to do it another time. So it's always kind of a balancing act.
How much of the lucid dreaming is in the moment just letting go of the dream itself and allowing it to play out, but then again still manipulating it, or at least manipulating your role in the dream? Like how much of it is just letting go and allowing the subconscious to run its course?
That's just up to you. I mean, you can decide to do it like that, or you can decide not to, right? So you can kind of decide how much you want to just roll with it. Simply, I'm in the dream setting I'm in. I see a fork in the road. I pick this way. You know what I mean? So you can roll it like that. And actually, a lot of times that's a really fun way to do it because oftentimes that's like the most stable way to keep you going, right? The more you try to influence things, the more the dream can break down. You'll start to wake up out of it. So really one of the earliest steps in lucid dreaming and getting more comfortable in the practice is simply just realizing you're dreaming, trying to stay in the dream, right? But the thing is, if you relax too much, you'll just get caught up in it, and you'll lose lucidity. You know what I mean, quick. So that can happen a lot too.
So you mentioned that you had a reoccurring dream when you were 5, and then as you grew a little bit older, you're like, oh, I can manipulate this. What was like the turning point to recognizing like this is actually a thing, like this is lucid dreaming, and I have a role in this? And like, what were you consuming at that time to learn more about it? And like, what was transpiring at that time?
So I was a teenager, and I was basically interested in just flying and fucking everything. So that's all I was doing. You know what I mean? So like, it happened again when I was like 13-ish. And the very first lucid dream I was in, I was like, oh, lucid. Oh shit, there's a chick right there. Oh man, I've been trying to do this for a long time. Let's go do this right now. And that's how it starts for a lot of people, actually. You know what I mean? Plus, right? Because when you're in REM, you already got a boner, right? Every time, even girls are turned on too, right? Like,
Hold on, you broke up. Did I lose you?
so that would be a natural tendency to do it. Oh,
Yeah, I lost you there, but you're back.
cool.
You said so in REM sleep, obviously there's an arousal to both male and female. And then so that was the point where you were able to take it and manipulate it to what you want to actually transpire in the dream. But now obviously you're going to have dreams that are going to kind of come to you that you may not agree with or may not be turned on. And I know you've spoken about it on your IGs that there's different forces and different like almost energies that come into a dream, and your interaction with those also either can keep you in the dream or take you out of the dream.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so there is a lot of times where, well, like where dream characters can approach you. Like very often the dream characters can help you get lucid. Where, like I had one not too long ago where like my son came up to me and he asked me, hey, are you dreaming? And I was like, oh, checking your hand is a common reality check. It's the one I do. Like, oh, look at my hand. Oh yeah, I am dreaming. Thanks. And I took him out flying. You know what I mean? But yeah. So all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, even with the even what I think what I was saying when I got cut off on there earlier was the trying to fly and fuck everything thing can really become a problem or for people, or I wouldn't say a problem. It can become a roadblock for people, right? Because that can be such a natural tendency and an urge to try and do when you're in there. It can just block you off and then stunt your what I would consider is progression. You know what I mean? Because you can do so much more than just fly and fuck everything, right?
Yeah.
And so to get past that roadblock can be an important one. I mean, that's a freaking roadblock I got stuck in for a long time. Basically, I just didn't think there was anything else to use it for, right? And then it wasn't until about really like it's gonna be funny, like 2013. So I went from like 13 to like 2013, right? So a long time of basically just doing it. I didn't know any better. And then I finally started to find some books on the topic. I mean, that's really when I figured out that it was basically it's a skill, right? That can be practiced and improved upon, and anybody can learn it. You know what I mean? Some people will have natural tendencies to doing it, like I lucked out and I kind of did, but it's a skill, right? And then there is, I mean, and the ceiling is infinity. So you can, it's like it's a very deep swimming pool. I mean, you can dig into this for your whole life and basically only scratch the surface of it, right?
Sure. It's like meditating, or I know you're a proponent of sensory deprivation, which is my probably number one modality of stillness and kind of going internal, and the depths of that, like John C. Lilly to kind of talk about in his variety of different books. But like there's the 0 point where like you become consciously unconscious, right? Like you're aware that and then and that's just the beginning, right? That's just like recognizing the wizard, right? You're not even peeling back the curtain yet. And then just because you do still recognize that. And I imagine dreams or anything or even meditation, obviously I'm an avid meditator, but any of those spaces where you're going dark and you're going inside, the well never runs dry.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So what are some things that people like? So if you're not prone, for lack of a better word, to being a lucid dreamer, not dreaming lucidly, what are some things that people can actually actively do to become a lucid dreamer or have lucid dreams?
So one of the first things to do would probably be reality checks, right? So basically, reality checks are things that you'll do throughout the daytime to check to see if you're dreaming, right? And it's gonna seem kind of funny because everybody in the daytime is like, well, shit, of course I'm not dreaming. Like, why would I even do a reality check, right? But the thing is, every time you're dreaming at night, you're thinking the exact same shit, right?
Yeah.
So reality checks, a very common one is you look at your hand. And I thought for a while that this came from Carlos Castaneda's books, because that's the first place I ever ran into it. But there was another book I was reading, I forget the name of it, but it was actually before those were published, and they were talking about it in there. So I don't think it came from him necessarily anymore. But nonetheless, pretty sure he popularized it, right?
Sure.
Where you can take anything that you can study well in the daytime, and then if you can find it in dream and study it well, more often than not, you'll be able to tell something is up, something's different about it, right? So like for me, oftentimes my hands will look blurred out. I'll be missing tattoos on my arms or something. If you want a quick little example of what this can look like, actually, is you can hold your hand out, look at it, right? And then look past it. And then it will like kind of double vision.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so that's very often what it looks like for me. Or you have like count your fingers or have like 6 fingers or 4 fingers or something like that. So you can do that in the daytime. And if you make a habit of it, right, anything you do in the daytime will eventually show up at night and in dreams. It will happen in dreams. So it's kind of like a guaranteed way to eventually have a lucid dream at some point, but that goes along with saying that you're doing it properly in the daytime. What a lot of people will do is they'll just be like, boom, hand, okay, not blurry, and just roll right past and spend like a couple seconds on it, right? When really you should be spending like, if you could spend a minute on it, that'd be great. A lot of times they have like these little mini meditations that people would do, like 1 minute meditations and stuff like that. So if you can think about it like that, I think that's a great way to do it. You probably want to be doing something like 20 to 30 a day,
Wow.
at first, especially when you're starting to get it ramped up and going. And you also want it to be random. So like you wouldn't really just put an alarm to go off once at every hour, because then it's going to become routine, right? So what I have is I have a random alarm generator on my phone. And then that thing, and I've been doing this since 2013. It's just something I've always have on there now, where every time I hear it go off, I'll do my reality check and then roll right past it. I guess when it comes to doing the reality check though, because you don't want to just, what do you do for that 1 minute? You're just gonna stare at your hand the whole freaking
Right.
time,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you can kind of compile them, or stack them. So there's multiple reality checks. Another one is reading things or looking at numbers, or a lot of times the words or the numbers will change. So you can check your hand, scan your environment, try to find writing or words somewhere, read the word, look away, look back and see if the word changed. And they're really,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
That happens, and that's well documented in tons of books from all around the world. That happens a lot. Um, Another really just a kind of decent one, at least this is what I'll tend to do more often than anything else, is I'll just scan the environment and I'll really try to study what's, just really look around and realize what's going on. Like, is there a fucking talking trash can right here or
Right.
something? Like
Right.
something's weird about that. Maybe I'm dreaming. And then normally for me, what I'll do is, this is how it happens in dream, at least most of the time for me, is I'll have a suspicion kick into my head. I'll scan, think, oh wait, I am dreaming. Then I'll double check my hand. And even sometimes when I'll do that, I'll scan, I'll double check my hand. My hand looks normal, but then I know it anyway. Or you can try flying, like jumping is another one where you can jump. And a lot of times in dreams, if you jump, even if you don't fly, you'll like kind of float down and something will be kind of weird. Or you'll jump sometimes and you don't feel yourself land on the ground, but you're still standing on the ground. So something weird like that. But that's one. Meditation, of course, goes a long way.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I know in the float tank there are a lot of times where I'll come across moments where, or even at the end of the float, I won't realize how gone I actually was because I still felt like I was there, but I was somewhere completely different. Like I was gone and out to the races. And it's funny you say like, you know, you do reality checks, you know, in real life, and then that transpires into the dream world where there are so many moments. And the one I default to is when like the birth of my daughter, where it felt so surreal that I felt like I was dreaming, right? It felt
Yeah.
so out of the ordinary because you don't have a child every day that it just stood out as this moment of time that was like, is this even real? Like this seems so fake. And I guess if you're walking through life on your day to day and you're questioning the reality when you're in a altered state, whether it be floating, meditation, lucid dreaming, you're now almost akin to that energy and that questioning of where you are. And if you can question where you are, then you could probably then take the next step, and that's would be what, manipulating the dream, or what would your next step once you realize you're in a dream? How do you stay with it? I know you said spinning, but how do you keep yourself grounded in the dream?
So something that I like to do, so a little trick I'll do to kind of try and stay in the dream. Well, what's the best way to explain this? Is, you know, maybe an easier way to explain this would be like through meditation, right? So
Sure.
when you're like you're meditating and you're like you're following a specific, your breath or whatever, right? You're following an object of attention, but then you also are aware of the background shit that's kind of going on, right? You're not in one of these peak meditative states where you are just 100% locked in on your breath, right? Kind of one where you're kind of falling, but you notice, you notice some other stuff going on in the background, some thoughts coming up, you still got some physical sensations going on. So it's kind of like that in dreams where you're following the scenario, because again, if you don't follow it close enough, you'll wake up out of it, or you'll get, but if you follow it too close, right, you get totally wrapped up in it and you just lose lucidity, you get caught up in it again. So it kind of comes down to keeping like it's like two layers of attention. I don't know if that sounds I
No, it
don't know
does.
if I'm
It
doing a
makes
good
sense.
job explaining that, but that's kind of what it kind of comes down to, where you want to follow the dream, but you gotta feel the dream, because you can feel the stability of it, and I guess that really just comes with, more time in it. Like you can totally tell when it's starting to break down. You can tell when it's getting solid, and you have more control over it. So you try to follow it, but without getting too caught up in it.
Yeah, that's like a beautiful metaphor for life, right? Like try to
Yeah.
follow it, but don't get too caught up in it. It's not that serious. Um, when did you like? So I know you said obviously from 13 to 2013 was just kind of one mindset. At 2013, what was like? Did you have a dream that broke through that you said, "Oh, I could do way more in this space than just fly or fuck"?
Oh yeah. What's funny is I actually don't really. When I started doing the videos about like sharing my dreams and stuff, right? I have had so many that I freaking forget a lot of them. Like going through my dream journals, I'm like, oh wow, like I forgot all about that dream and stuff. I do remember one of the more meaningful ones I had was actually one I shared earlier, where like when my grandfather passed, right? I was flying around my house doing my normal. I'm always dreaming of my childhood home and shit. So I'm flying around and see my dad there. Like, oh, hey, dad, look at me. I got good control in this dream. And then behind him in our old home, I noticed grandpa was there. And then I got kind of choked up. I wanted to tell him, like, hey, look, like grandpa's right behind you. I couldn't speak, but I was learning sign language at the time. So then I sign language it to him. Then my dad turned around and, I went in to see, his dad. And it meant a lot to me. Like whether that was really their spirits or whatever, I don't know. Right. But
Yeah.
it almost doesn't matter because it felt so important to me. You know what I mean? It still felt, I was like, oh wow, that was nothing I really ever pictured even happening. And that's an example of a lucid dream where I didn't dictate my grandpa coming in the background, right? That just happened, and I happened to notice it. And then I point to my dad in direction, but it was still very, very meaningful. I totally woke up the next day, text my dad, hey, did you dream of grandpa last night? And He was like, no, but damn it, Dad.
He's like, no, come on, Dad, step up your lucid dreaming game. Do you lucid dream every night? Is this something that you do every night, or do you set out like block times to do it?
It's something I intend to do every night. I definitely don't do it every night. I mean, you can have some, and anybody who says they lucid dream every night, man, they are probably lying. Like, unless they're like the 0.01% of the population, maybe. But for me, it kind of come and go in spurts, right? So like sometimes I'll have at least once a month. That's pretty much what I've been doing about on average since like being 13. But if I get going and get full time, I can have like, 4 nights a week sometimes, and it's going really good. And sometimes you have multiple sleep cycles every night, right?
Right.
Sleeping generally 90-minute chunks. Each one of those 90 minutes, you have some length of REM cycle. And the REM gets longer, the more 90-minute chunks you go through. So sometimes on some of those nights I could have like 2 or 3 lucid dreams in just one night. It can happen too, which, it actually brings me back to something you asked earlier. What can people do to lucid dream? One of the key things I actually would say, before even doing reality checks, now to think about it, is, are you recalling your dreams? Like, how many dreams a night can you recall? Right? Because that's key. If you can't recall them, then you just like, you can have lucid dreams and wake up and forget them. Right? Totally. That happens. And then get more sleep. Right? Like, if you can sleep, if you're only sleeping like 6 hours a night, which a lot of people do, you're just not spending that much time in REM, right? Where if you can go like to 8, 9, 10 hours, man, you're dreaming like long. You could
Right.
have some lucid dreams that are like well over an hour. You know what I mean? So that would be another key thing. So sleep hygiene, and then remembering your dreams, which also counts as dream journaling. Something it's a pain in the ass to do, because sometimes it will take like, me like half hour to write them up or something like that. But in the beginning, that's another kind of key aspect that you pretty much got to do at the start, at least probably like every dream. Then once you kind of get going with it, then you can only record the dreams that, feel important to you for some reason, or, lucid or whatever.
Yeah, dream journaling. I've never kept a dream journal, but like I said earlier, there are a few dreams that I've had throughout my life that stood out, or moments of dreams that stood out. And I wonder if those are if those are considered lucid dreams, just based off of my role in them and not being able to manipulate it, but just being kind of present and consciously present, obviously.
Yeah.
But how does melatonin kind of come into play? Like, is melatonin, or are there any supplements that people could take that would contribute to lucid dreaming?
So there definitely are. And that was another kind of big eye opener for me back in 2013. So melatonin, I mean, I guess that could work because it could help you sleep more, so like maybe if you wanted to extend your sleeping, and you could, I don't know, wake up and say you get up at like 6 hours, like, oh shit, I'm take melatonin, try to go back to sleep, which brings up, so there's a bunch of hacks you can do in here. Anyway, the strongest one, and pretty much the most popular one, is galantamine, right? It's an Alzheimer's drug that they made. I mean, but it's like, you can just buy it over the counter and shit. So that one works amazingly well. The problem is with that, though, is the half-life on it is really short. So like, you have to do it combined with the wake back to bed technique, which is basically where you sleep at least like 4 hours, but maybe better if you sleep like 5 or 6 hours. You wake up, take the galantamine, and then go back to sleep, and hopefully fall asleep quickly, because like I said, in an hour and a half or so, it's gone. And then that can work. That can work wonders. The problem with it for me, though, is kind of fires my brain up too much. It's a nootropic, yeah.
Sure.
And so like, it gets me thinking too much, and then I can't fall asleep. And then lo and behold, an hour and a half, I finally go to sleep and the shit's gone already.
Right.
But one of my favorites is time release B6. And I like that one because it's been in a bunch of studies where they found that it works. It's not all that strong. It just makes dreams kind of more vivid and clear, which as a result ups the chances of you getting lucid as well, right? So, and I like the time release version of it because then you can just take it right anytime before bed and it works all night. Mugwort is another pretty common one, which to me works kind of along the lines as B6, where it seems to be a little bit of an edge. But if you really want to just try to have one, right, and you want to kind of cheat, this is what you could do. So you would sleep like the whatever 4 or 5 hours, wake up, and then if you take like NyQuil, I found that when taking NyQuil, sometimes that just makes you it dulls your mind too much. Or sometimes it could work where like you wake up 6 hours, 7, 8 hours, take that, go back to sleep, right? Where your dreams will be going off, but it won't. You might not have strong lucidity and controlling. You'll feel a bit sluggish. So what can work, and I would definitely don't recommend doing this all the time, but if you just want to try and like go all out at one night, is you could take like Benadryl. So wake up, take the Benadryl, then go back to sleep and hopefully be able to sleep for another hour and a half, 2 hours. Stack that with whatever you want. If you want to take galantamine along with that shit, you could do it. And then that's a nice way to kind of cheat and try to get there if you're really just trying to have you're really just trying to have your first lucid dream to see what it's all about or whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, the Benadryl, I imagine, because it's drowsy. It'll put you out. So what is it about the Benadryl that's like the big hack? Like, is it just the fact that it is like a drowsy thing or?
Oh, yeah, it just helps you go to sleep. Because really it comes down to sleeping. So once you pass like 8 hours, if you can go back to sleep after that, I mean, just you're dreaming basically the entire time, right? So it just gets you able to go back to sleep, and that's basically it. So
is there a state of sleep that lucid dreaming is taking part in, or does it take part in different stages of sleep? Is it always in REM?
Good point. Pretty much it's always in REM. I mean, if you want to have like the classic visual type dream space. Now they have lucid dreaming, which is kind of like dream yoga. If you take the Buddhist approach to this, because they've been doing this for like forever, right? They have actual deep history with this, but then they also have something called sleep yoga, right? Dream yoga, yeah, sleep yoga. And so that's what they say takes place in like stages 3 and 4, or what they would used to call like your deep dreamless sleep, right? And that's been a state that I've been trying to get to. And I think I might have got a couple times, but like a lot of the books and stuff that you read on it, it's supposed to be like a lot more deep and profound to what lucid dreaming can be. And so I've had a few dreams where I think maybe it was it. Then I also think that maybe if it was it, it probably wasn't it. Because if it was it, I would have been like, that was fucking it.
Right. Like that's the same thing as the 0 point with the float tank, right? Like, so I've experienced it. Like I always just use an example. Like I pecked its lips. Like it was just like, it was a snap of a finger. It felt like eternity, right? It felt like abundance and scarcity. It really felt like the yin and the yang of the universe. And it was like literally like that, but it felt so long, but I snapped because I became aware that I was in that state. I snapped myself out of it. And again, to John C. Lilly's point, it's even deeper than that. So maybe that was just the appetizer to the 0 point, or maybe that was the 0 point and there's still the dessert of getting deeper to that. But I know that feeling of like, was that it? Like that, like it felt intrinsically, like if you ask me like, oh yeah, that was it, but maybe it wasn't it. Maybe that was just the appetizer to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it is deep, and the really advanced like Buddhist practitioners, they are basically aware through all stages of sleep. So then the other stages of sleep too is in stage 1 of sleep, you have hypnagogia, which is another one of my jams there. And that is, I mean, it is visual, but it's not like daytime kind visual, like REM dreams are. Yeah. And so actually that's another area of practice that I found helped my lucid dreaming practice in a huge way, because it's unrealistic to think you're going to lucid dream every night or even most nights, right? I mean, in the long run. But if you can get the hypnagogic practice down, you can do that basically on command. And that is what I found to be exercising the same muscle, like the same mental muscles as you do within lucid dreaming.
So what is the similarity to lucid dreaming from that? Is it still dream manipulation, or is it just being able to recall the dream?
it's being able to maintain the visual, so stay in stage one of sleep, maintain the hypnagogic imagery, while slightly influencing it in certain ways, kind of trying to dictate what pops up next. Because a lot of times in hypnagogy, it's so we pass through it every time we're falling asleep, right? We just normally are not consciously aware of the fact of it happening, right? Because we're already, not lucid at that point. But if you can get down there lucid, it's kind of like a neat snapshot of your subconscious mind. It's a neat snapshot of just the random shit that's popping up, which of course you can also see, in regular everyday meditation, right? If you can really get quiet and just watch the randomness pop up, it's basically that, but it's a lot more visual where it can be seen. I also like to say that hypnagogy is kind of more like you're watching like a show, like a TV show. So you're separate from it, right? You're seeing something. Where in REM dreams and standard lucid dreams, you're in it, like in waking reality, right?
So the lucid dream is more of like a first person view, and the earlier version of
Hypnagogic,
that
yeah.
hypnagoga is kind of like a third person view.
Yeah, kind of. Although it definitely gets blurry. Like if you ever have wild, which is also called like a wake initiated lucid dream. Sometimes people call it a wake induced lucid dream. Doesn't really matter. But so what that is, that's where you go from wide awake all the way down into stage one of sleep, and then go straight into REM. So like you don't always, the stages don't go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time, right? Like when you get into the later stages, the later hours of sleep, you pretty much just go stage one, REM, and then you go back to stage one of REM. That's why you spend so much more time in REM versus earlier on in the night when you're sleeping, right? And so if you can have one of those, you can actually see the hypnagogia build out, get more complex. And then there's like a tipping point where for me, it always feels like I'm getting like sucked in. And then it give me chicken skin thinking about it, because it's a freaking dope experience. But you get like sucked into it. Then all of a sudden, boom, you're in the middle of the dream. Like the scene you were seeing out here is now it's sucked in, and now you're in it. Now it is first person. You can look down, you can see yourself, you can turn your head, and you can see the environment. You can also do that from the flip side. So after REM, when you're waking up out, you pass through another state that's very similar to hypnagogia, but it's called hypnopompia. Basically the same thing though, where you see the dream break down, it breaks down into hypnopompia, and then normally you wake up. But that's my main way of staying in dreams, where like I can keep some dreams going for like, long, super long. Like I could tell REM wants to end. So REM is trying to kick me out, but I'll just be like, oh, no, wait, fuck that. I'm still trying to get something done here. So then you'll build the dream back out. The only difference is that I find, at least when you do it from the waking up side, so from the hypnopompic side, it doesn't have that same cool sucking in feeling that you get from the hypnagogic side.
What's amazing to me is that this is transpiring. Like, is this happening every night while we're having regular dreams that we're not remembering? Like, are these stages still transpiring? Yeah. That's crazy to me.
100%. Yeah.
That's crazy, because I'm not a dream. Like, I don't wake up and go, I remember. Like, there are some, like I said earlier, but this is happening all the time. Every time you're sleeping, you're going through these phases and these process, and you're not even we're not even aware of it. And the ability to tap into that, it's no different than a meditation or anything like that. The ability to tap into these different brainwave states is just, it's remarkable that this is always happening.
Hell yeah. I mean, like we're sleep like 1/3 of your life. I mean, just imagine if you could make use of that time, and I'm not that big on, like I haven't had too many super deep insights that like changed my life, but you can certainly use it for that. I mean, I started my YouTube channel and my Instagram and all that shit off of a dream, actually. You know what I mean? I had a lucid dream about it, and shit, maybe I should try that. And then I put all this shit together. But yeah.
So you had a dream that basically, was it you telling you to start a YouTube channel? What was that?
So it was something I was thinking about doing. The pandemic was, just getting going, right? So I actually know. I'm gonna start that. So it was November 2019. I started making the videos when the pandemic started, because I had more free time on my hands. But so when it started for me, is basically 2013, 2014, figure out this is a practice, a skill that can be practiced and improved upon. And it could be so much more than just flying and fucking everything. And so then I was like, oh God, this can be so much more. So then I started trying to tell my wife, my brother, my parents, my friends about it. And I kept trying to express it to them, but they're all like, meh, cool, goodbye.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And then I was like,
You got
oh
it.
shit, I gotta share this stuff. And so it was a long buildup for me because I'm pretty like internal. Like, you know, I would never think about video myself and putting up videos of me talking on YouTube or Instagram. Hell no, I wouldn't want to do that. But you know, the fact is I actually love to do it, right? Actually something I really enjoy doing. But I had this long process of like, should I even do it? You know, what are my friends gonna think if I start doing this weird shit? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And then so
Yeah.
I had a dream where like it was like a crazy version of Ram Dass was there, right? And he was so like,
Nope.
we're
No one
partying.
better to tell you to fucking do it than Ram
Fucking
Dass.
exactly, right? Exactly. Um, so we were at a club dancing. I was lucid already, and then I even like earlier in this dream, someone gave us like fake acid. I mean, or acid, which was because I don't have too many dreams, but like you can do drugs in dreams and get trippy effects from it. So it starts off with that. I'm like, okay, let's go clubbing on some acid or something.
So you're clubbing with Ram Dass taking acid.
Oh, Ram Dass ain't there yet, but yes, that is what happens. And then like, you know, I'm dancing, we're having fun and shit. And then like this crazy guy walks up, a guy who I interpreted to be like a crazy version of Ram Dass anyway. And he starts wanting to show me things, right? I'm like, oh, okay. And this is like one of those times when you get those aware dream characters who like really come out there to help you and they'll like show you things, which I think of as your subconscious mind, like saying, hey, come with me. I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna help you out, you little weak thing compared to me, right? Because the conscious mind compared to the subconscious is just freaking peanuts. So then he starts pointing things out. And so what he's doing is he's pointing things out to me that are in like plain sight, but they're like hidden from everything else. You know, so then we're going around the club, we leave it. Like anyway, he gets to this one point where he says, okay, I'm gonna show you one more thing. Right. And at this point, like I'm up in I'm standing in the street. I look, I'll get my brother in like one window on a tall building up to my one side, and then get Ram Dass up in a tall window up to my left side. And then I look at my older brother and I'm like, he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, and you know, go look at Ram Dass. This is gonna be something important. And then Ram Dass drops a pair of cow balls out the window. And I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? And then it was later on when I thought about it, he was basically telling me, grow some balls and go fucking put your shit out there. If you want to put your shit out there, just go fucking do it. Who cares what anybody thinks about it? And then yeah, that's how it started.
So Ram Dass told you to drop your balls.
Pretty much.
And grow a set.
Yeah, that's what he did.
If you're going to have anyone tell you to move forward with something like that, that's the person you want. You want Ram Dass, Jesus, Buddha. You want someone to come along and be like, hey, go do this thing.
And the other thing is too, is like, I'm not, Ram Dass is awesome, right? He was a cool ass dude, but like, I never really, I wasn't immersed in his work or anything. It just kind of happened, which was also kind of neat, I thought.
But yeah, that's kind of how it's supposed to happen, right? You can't be never meet your heroes, right? Like, so, you know, Ram Dass is coming to it's even more profound that you weren't. It would make sense, like, all right, well, I'm you know, Ram Dass obsessed. Yeah, he's going to come to me, but the fact that like he's on the outer liar, an outlier to you on your studies and what you're reading and what you're consuming, like, you know of him, you know his work, you've read some stuff, but it makes it more profound that he comes through and says like, hey, you got to drop your balls and go do this thing. And it's funny how you say like, you know, I'm not the type of person to do these things. I'm not the type of person to do these videos, but you're so good at it. And you explain the videos and you explain the dreaming and you're so engrossed in it. And you're so like, when I came across your page, I was like, well, I've heard of lucid dreaming. Quite frankly, it scared me a little bit. I was like, oh, what is, like, you know, I was taking a supplement pack. I was like, may cause lucid dreaming. And I was like, well, what is that about? Right. So I started diving into what lucid dreaming is and all that stuff. And it was like all nootropics and things of that nature. But I was like, all right, like, am I comfortable lucid dreaming? Like, I go and float, I meditate, but I never had an actual, from my experience, a lucid dream, you know, to my knowledge. And then, you know, your page is just like, it's so informative, and the way you break down the lucid dreams and what they are, and do you usually extrapolate meaning from them? Do you kind of dive into what they can mean, or do you allow them to stand alone? Or
I mean, I do sometimes, you know, but I mean, most of the time I don't really, because I mean, it's so hard for me to like, it's so hard to explain it. Sometimes it's not, I can't explain it. Like, it's more of like a feeling thing. Like, even in the one the last post I put up, where like, you know, at one point I was like zooming out over worlds or planets or who the fuck knows, but it was like I was seeing things from like it felt like a god like perspective without sounding like so full of myself or something. But that's kind of what it seemed like. It's the best way I could describe it. And I was being shown like individual things, and it was like 10 or 11 things. I had a dream characters there that were kind of helping to explain stuff to me. And even then, everything they were explaining to me, it was just it was feelings, right? It wasn't like I can picture it, but it's nothing that I could really like explain. You know what I mean? It was just like it was a perspective that I got from it. And nothing, yeah, nothing really deep, like nothing that I could really come out and translate it into something. It was
right?
just like I took it to being shown, I was being shown like this is what, like this is a possibility.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, that's what happens when we're dead.
Like astral projection, kind of.
Yeah. Like, even, yeah, like that. You know, so
And I think there's a point, and there's that great poem, The Egg, where you're supposed to experience everybody's life. Like, you're supposed to experience all of humanity throughout the entire existence through every person's perspective, and then you become a god. Like, that's how, like, you die, and that's the purpose of life, is to experience life through everybody's eyes. And that's how you become a god. And intrinsically, whether you believe it or not, we all have a god self within us. And maybe that's just your god self coming through and saying, like, look what you're capable of.
that's kind of like the feeling I got from it, actually. Yeah, I mean, it was look what's possible. And this whole dream was full of like weird things. Like, after this, I woke up and I was like a little baby, like looking up at like a motherly figure, and they were like, you know, I got like the love of a family to a baby, which of course I went through, but hell, I don't remember that shit, right? You know, now I do it from the parental side to my kids, but you know, and it was super, even that part, nothing I could really take out from it, extrapolate from it, but shit, that was like very powerful. You know what I mean? It was a huge experience for me.
Right.
So
The feeling, and I'm such a huge proponent of like allowing the feelings of life to guide you, right? Like trimming the fat of the bad, leaning into the good, and just kind of letting the feeling guide you throughout. And if that's something that you can get from a dream, right, and then be able to manipulate that, is like next level of a consciousness, right? Like it's another form of diving into the subconscious. Have you done any research in regards to like brainwave states that the brain is reaching, and are they different in lucid dreaming in comparison to regular dreaming? Like, how are the brainwaves kind of showing up?
yeah, so like when you're in the lucid dreaming, it's been a while since I looked at this, but I think that was like the gamma waves, like the Hulk shit. I think that actually is the name for it. Or normally
Yeah,
it's gonna
gamma.
be, yeah, where you know, for most of the brainwave stuff that I've done would be like the binaural beats things, right? There was a time where I was really kind of trying to get into those, and they never helped me too much, honestly. But what I found worked almost just as good. Like, if I found the non brainwave version, but it was just like some kind of, you know, like meditation type background music, I found that for me worked similarly just as well. Kind of brings me to another thing, though. You know, like the light machine I got is hooked up to brainwave stuff too. So when the lights come out, it actually is also doing the same brainwave the same binaural beat frequency and stuff like that. So I've done a bit of that, but yeah, I haven't really dived too deep into the whole brainwave states and all of that.
Yeah, because I know in the float tank you're kind of reaching alpha, you know, which is like that consciously unconscious brainwave state where like you're consciously calm and aware, but you're kind of like flowing and you're kind of relaxed. Whereas like gamma, you're just like bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? You're flying off the handle.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty positive gamma is the higher operating one. It would make sense that if you're in the subconscious, right, but now you're also now manipulating the subconscious, you would be at a higher frequency of brainwave state.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think that's the one that's kind of like waking state, right? It's just more.
Yes, it's more rigid.
It's yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's the one for lucid dreaming. Yeah, but they're cool, man. I mean, I definitely like to use the light machine. What was a pretty cool thing. I remember you guys were talking about in the last episode. I was gonna be like, that thing is pretty dope.
Yeah, I've never hopped in one. I gotta check one out because I'm intrigued by them because it's supposedly like almost a psychedelic experience, right? Without it being, and then you could break it down, you know, obviously the psychologist aspect of it, or you could break it down to the just trip out aspect of it. But there is a psychedelic and healing that can come through it.
Yeah. So what I found with it was it's a lot like it's a lot like the float tank, right? Like I've been going float tank for a few years now. I try to go as often as I can. When I go, like try to go at least once a month, and I've brought my friends there a ton of times, right? And most of them are just like, what was that? You know, because like if you don't have a meditation practice, right, and you go into the float tank, you're just gonna sit there floating, thinking like, oh, this hour and a half is going by kind of slow or something, maybe
Right.
potentially, right? Where it's the same thing with the lights, where if you don't focus on them and you can't get your mind to lock in on it, it doesn't really work. You know what I mean? So at least for me, like the way I would like to use it is I would use the flashing light so it gives you something to look at. So it's kind of like a open eye meditation in that sense, right? Where you can use that point or the flashing points as your object of attention. And then as you can continually get locked in on that, then hopefully reach one of these more peak meditative states, like when you would be locked in on your breath or whatever, right? And when you can do that, oh, it is pretty trippy because then like you'll start to see patterns of it, right? Then it does get quite psychedelic where we'll start like kind of, for me, we'll start first kind of twisting and turning where now it's kind of looks like a tunnel might be forming. Then if you can really lock in on it, you know, you could feel like you're falling in that tunnel kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been there in the float tank where like it's just like one, you know, I always describe it as like a flashlight behind a piece of black construction paper. And it was like this light that was coming through the darkness, and I was felt so compelled to dive into it, to just like free fall into this light. And you know, it went on for a while, and there was a whole negotiation with my conscious and my subconscious, and this whole big thing. But I know that feeling of like, okay, like we're going past the breakers at this point. We're going past what I've known as just silence, peace of mind. Like we're breaking through the other side of a version of reality that I don't always interact with. But it's, to your point, it's a feeling. It's not it's an experience, but it's an experience in feeling. And there's like this underlying knowing that's happening along with this. And it's, to your point earlier, the subconscious that's going on behind is so much more of the, you know, the occupation of the brain, right? It's occupying so much more space than the conscious. And when you start to bring that forward, it's this weird shift of awareness that is like, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think from the lucid dreaming and the other modalities that you participated, do you think that, like you mentioned your grandfather and you mentioned your father and the spirit of them, and I know you've spoken about, you know, kind of calling out and trying to find other people in dreams and creating people in dreams.
Yeah.
Do you think that you, from your experience and the feeling that you get from it, are you going somewhere? Is this alternate realities that you're tapping into, or are you just kind of compiling the information from the day and your brain's trying to organize it, so to speak?
So the way
What
I
does
think
your
about
gut
this,
tell you? You know,
well,
like,
so I'm open to everything. I think my gut tells me like I'm too westernized for it to be more than just my own subconscious mind. Like, so the way I get kind of more, I don't want to say, like, the way I take it is your subconscious mind is just so powerful. You know what I mean? That it can, that it, if whether it's really the spirit or not, doesn't really matter. And my stance on it is it's probably not. I'm open to it being so, and maybe it is for like you know, somebody in the world, a few choice moments where something did kind of break through there. But I'm kind of more on the side of the science aspect of it, where it is all just internal to me and all my subconscious mind. And and I've tried to test this, but before too, where more on like the astral projection or like the out of body type experiences, right? Where I've had those dreams where I rise up out of my body, I see myself there, I see my wife in bed, everything looks exactly like my house really looks in life, right? But when I've had those, to me, because I've had so many lucid dreams already, but by that point, when these have been coming around, it still feels like a lucid dream to me, right? Like just a more intense one for sure. And then if I stay with it and I stay in the dream state, it builds out into just a regular type, my house starts morphing into what God knows what, and then it is just a regular type of dream scene. But also have it where I keep a deck of cards in my room, right? And when this will happen, well, I was really pursuing this on purpose for a while. You go to the card deck, if you can even find the card deck, which I normally can't even find that bitch. And then you pull it out, you look at what the first two cards are, wake yourself up, go check that deck. If I could get those things to match, man, I'd be all in on it. I want it to be real, but until I can really prove it to myself, I'm kind of just on the side of probably all internal. Even I've had some too where like you hit kind of like the other dream I was talking about, where like you hit this different plane, right? Where it almost could be, that's what I would consider to be the astral plane, even though I would consider that to still be all internal to my head. I just think of it as a different layer of your own consciousness, but still my consciousness. I mean, that's how I see it.
So it's not a collective in the sense that it's like, we're all in the matrix plugged into this collective consciousness of experience. It's more of your own internal consciousness that you're bringing to, or subconsciousness that you're bringing conscious.
Yeah. Now, I like I liked like the unified consciousness thing. Like when I think about that, just like now and awake, I could see that being a possibility, right? But I haven't, until I can kind of prove it to myself. Yeah, I'm stuck on the other side of that. But
Yeah.
that makes so much sense to me. And actually had an experience like that in the float tank, where you get to one of these, so it's basically, when you try to look for the self, right? In a standard meditation, right? Where I can normally, like this morning I was doing it, I'll get little glimpses of it, but it will slip away quickly.
Sure.
Right. But there's been times in the floating where I get it and I'm like in it. I'm solid in it. I'm looking for myself. I can't find myself. I have this mental imagery going on of me like it's not me, it's just a perspective, just kind of moving through space, although not like outer space, just like emptiness, right?
Sure.
And what it came down to, the feeling I got from it, it was more of like a free will thing. It was like how we don't have it. Like it's just it's it's something that like we're tricked into thinking that we're picking, but it's actually not happening. We're just this little thing moving and just having this experience come up. Again, hard to explain, but that's kind of
No, I understand what you're saying. It's free will in the regards that we think that we're manipulating our environment, but we are in some capacities manipulating the environment, but the environment is already established, and we are kind of moving on a trajectory of who we already are, right? We're already
yeah.
established in this universe, right? And now we're just kind of playing out the role, or playing out the scene by scene interaction with that. It's like the
Yeah.
predestination, right? Versus the free will. And it's probably a balance, right? It's probably a little bit of both, right? But, and are there mile markers along the way that you just have to get to. That's what I think of sometimes. Like maybe there's just these particular times in your life that you get to, and then it's like a reset, and then you have all the free will to get to the next one, but the next one is ultimately the next one. However you get there, however you get up the mountain is up to you, but ultimately you're going to get to that next peak.
Yeah. And then like the feeling that it gave me when I was having that experience, it was more of like, because I wasn't there, because I couldn't find the me, then that made me think upon reflection, maybe that is maybe that is the unified consciousness part. I mean, whether, because it was conscious, there was just no me there, right? You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying. So maybe that could be, the unified consciousness thing.
Right. Well, no, I get it. And I think it's the old, like, to me, what's coming up is the idea that I don't know what I actually look like, right? Like I know what I look like in a picture or in a mirror, right? But what you actually see it could be something radically different than what I know I have a beard, I feel it, I have a nose, I have all the pieces of Mr. Potato Head, but what you actually see might be completely different than what I see, than what my wife sees, than what my kids see. And maybe what we're actually seeing is our own soul, our own consciousness, our own, because we know, right? You can't fake the man in the mirror, right? You can't lie to him. So we see ourselves, but what other people see might be radically different. So if you can't see the self in that space, maybe it is, the collective consciousness that there is no self.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I have tried calling out quite deeper questions like that to the dreams, because that is a kind of common practice we've seen in lots of the books, where like, some of the books, they make it seem so easy, but you can call out like, show me the unified consciousness, and then like some people can get the dream or just poof, pop that shit out for them. And I've tried calling stuff out like that in my dreams, and I don't know if it's because I have this Western block in my brain, but like whenever I try to do stuff like that, I mean, it takes a lot. It doesn't work. Basically, I can get other things that kind of go and kind of work, but trying to like get those really deep, type experiences, I generally have to like try and work my way there, or do like these little steps to try and get there, as opposed to just shouting out to the dream and having it show me right away.
Right, because intrinsically you don't believe it.
Kind of.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's not going to give you the answer if you truly don't believe it, right? Like you're questioning the faith, right? You're questioning the process, and in that questioning, it's like I was talking about with of course there is.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there, but in questioning it, it's showing that you don't believe in it fully, right? So it's not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, well, here's your answer, right? Like it's not, that defeats the purpose of it.
Because it's all about belief and expectation, right? And like, I think that's it. Cause I don't really expect it to happen. Or I mean, I don't like believe, I don't really know. And then in dreams, it's all about, expectation in particular is a huge one. That's basically how you control everything, is through expectation.
What do you mean by like, so going into the dream with expectation, or while you're in the dream having expectation?
I mean, yeah, like manipulating the dream. So like say, if I'm trying to find somebody in particular, a way I like to do it is I'll try to expect them to be behind me, and then I'll turn around. Or a trick I like to do a lot is, especially if I'm in like someplace with a lot of cars, like in a city or something, I'll scan the cars, trying to look for them, expecting to try and find somebody there, and then try and find them. Or you try to find something in the dream that can kind of like, say if I'm trying to find my parents or something. Okay, I'll go to my childhood home, because then it's more likely I could expect to find them in there.
Sure.
A way you can practice this in the daytime is like, I'll be like, got the window behind me, I'll be facing forward, hopefully without this thing behind. Actually, even with the camera, I guess that would still work. But then when I turn around, I want to practice this expectation feeling of, okay, there it is, just like I expected it to be. You take that same practice, bring it into the dream, and that's a way to kind of like bridge the gap and get more control going on.
Yeah. And the reality that you actually see, right? Because again, behind me right now, although I could see it in the camera, behind me right now might actually be nothing, right? Because I don't
Yeah.
know that I don't know there's something behind me. I see it in the camera, but that's still in front of me. So there's a potential reality and a potential expectation. Yes, I should turn around and there should be a lava lamp and there should be a Boba Fett helmet. Yes, but I don't actually know that those things are there.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that's a nice daytime practice to do to help get more control in your dreams. Basically.
Yeah. And we might be in a dream within a dream, right? It might be the inception thing, right? We might be dreaming the dream.
Yep. I mean, and you'll do that a lot too in dreams is you'll wake up, right? You have like a false awakening where you wake up, or most of the time for me, when I wake up, I'll wake up into a totally different dream. But sometimes for a lot of people, they'll wake up in their bed, right? Thinking the dream is over. They'll get up, they'll get ready to work, go to work, wake up again in bed, be like, huh? Okay, might as well get ready to go to work, fucking wake up again in bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To keep kind of dreaming that same loop. And I think that's where a lot of people will get the fear of. Sometimes people will be scared of dreams, like, oh, I'm gonna be stuck in here forever, stuff like that. But that's kind of a way it can happen.
Well, listen, that could also happen on psilocybin or anything else where you get so deep down because your reality is becoming shattered. There's no time and space to keep you in this reality. So when time and space are completely shattered and there is none of that, right? Then you're clamoring and grabbing onto what is reality, right? And that's when you go down these rabbit holes, and that's when you could go into a bad trip, or you could go into a dream. You're like, oh, I can't get out of this dream. And it's happened to me where I'm like, oh, my beard's gone, and then I'll come back and I'll be like, oh, my beard, but I'm still in the dream, and then I'll wake up out of it and be like, oh shit, now I'm like, and who knows? I still might be in that dream, like.
Yeah. Could be dreaming right now. That's why you got to do reality checks.
Right. Like, but again, that reality check might just
the
be
reality check could be
dream.
true. That.
And the rooster's going off and we haven't woken up. So maybe, I don't know.
You know what is one of the most foolproof reality checks though is you pinch your nose and you close your mouth and you try to breathe. Because like in dreams, you obviously will keep breathing. So if you can do this and you start suffocating, you're awake.
You're awake.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. You have to drown yourself to make sure that you're awake.
Oh man, hey, just think about it as breath work, like you guys are talking about in the last one.
That's it. Yeah, get some breath work in. Do you do any breath work, or do you do any like medicines or any plant medicine or anything like that contributes to the dreaming?
Well, I would kind of consider that separate. I mean, I definitely do like to enjoy some THC on the occasion,
Sure.
but that will absolutely fuck your dreams into the ground, man. that screws up. Well, it screws up dream recall. Right? You're still dreaming, but it will jack up your recall in a huge way. So I enjoy that, but then yeah, it is a trade-off because I do love my dreams, and if I'm smoking in the daytime, I just don't expect to have any dreams that night.
So you're saying THC consumption throws off your dream recall?
Big time. Totally. Yeah. You know what it does help a lot with though is hypnagogic work, right? Like it can make your hypnagogia way strong because like it is a slight hallucinogen, right?
Sure.
So like you take that, go hop in the float tank or go smoke some, hop in the float tank, and then that makes hypnagogia generally a lot stronger.
Yeah. Those brainwave states, just like will you stay in it longer? Or when you say stronger, what do you mean?
It just makes the visuals more apparent. I mean, it makes your visual stronger. There's something for me though, is I got to do it immediately before going in. Cause if I, do it too long before, my mind just gets tired and gets kind of lazy, or I'll get too distracted. I'll get paranoid or something like that starts going on. Then that you got to battle with all that before you can get to the hypnagogia. For the breathwork stuff though, so I've done, Wim's Hof thing. I remember like how long you can hold your breath and crank out like 100 push-ups while holding your breath. It's like, what? That's fucking possible. But what I really like to do is I like just holding my breath. You know what I mean? So I'll do a simple, you basically like the Wim Hof method, right? So you get your breath hold down longer, right? So I'll do that. Then I'll hold my breath and I'll go through rounds of it. It's basically just like Wim Hof stuff, but I'm doing it more to go internal. right? Because if you do that too, you can watch, like, do that and then watch your mental imagery. It gets mental imagery going off it as well, especially when you start getting to, like, to the later, you're passing like 2 minutes and stuff like that. Can really make that go strong as well too. So, that's another one I've enjoyed doing.
Yeah, yeah, I've done the Wim Hof breathing cycles, and as I start doing it more and more, you do reach like these really bizarre, and I say that with the utmost love and respect for it, but these really
Yeah.
bizarre states of mind of, once you get past all the daily to-do list, right? Like once I get past, like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and I get past all that, like it's the same thing as the float tank. Like once the dust settles and that subconscious comes up, it's a really weird, uncharted territory to go into. And that's why I think what so many people are afraid of. I mean, that's why people leave on TVs in their houses and music and podcasts and, this constant distraction from the self, that where it's almost like a fear thing. And I've told this a million times in the podcast, but the reason why I first didn't float was because I was afraid of what I was going to think. And I was like, well, that's scarier than anything I'm going to fucking think in there. That means I'm afraid of myself. So I need to go in there. And for me, it's always a very relaxing organization. My brain, I walk out there and just feel like I untangled a rubber band ball. I feel like I unwound so much, just both physically, mentally, spiritually. And it is a beautiful experience. But the same thing would go for breath work, for, lucid dreaming, where you're going into the depths of yourself to learn potentially more. And there is that questioning of like, is this reality? Is this real? What is the reality that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis? And then you could take that and you can go deeper and deeper. And that, like I said, that well never dries.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so when you go into the tanks, like, do you have a set approach that you follow? Does it change from time to time?
It changes from time to time. There are moments where, I usually do it once a month. And there are times where I go in there with a set thing in mind, where I need to solve this whatever's going on in my mind. I need to kind of organize it. And the only way I find myself being able to be radically honest and truthful with myself is in silence. Right. And I was very affiliated with the float center. I still am. And there was a woman who walked in, she was like, I never tried it before. I'm going to try it. She tries it and she comes out and she goes, well, I got the answer I wanted she goes, I got the answer I didn't want in the first 15 minutes. And she's never done it
doing
before.
hours or doing 90 minutes?
So she did an hour, right?
Oh, right,
But
right.
she was so engrossed in this thing that she just needed the silence to get the answer. Now, it wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was indeed an answer, right? So, it's the perspective and the relationship with what you have with yourself that, you how you see it, right? She's like, oh, I got the answer I didn't want. I'm like, well, that's still an answer. You may not like the answer, but you got the answer, right? And, when I go in with a set intention of something, usually I'll get the answer pretty quickly and I could ride out the rest of it and just enjoy the experience. And kind of like sleeping, I guess I come in and out of brainwave states where I'm like, oh, I was gone. I didn't even realize it. And then there are times I go in with no intention at all. And those are some of the most profound experiences where I'll leave there like a changed human being. And I'm like, oh, my perspective on either reality or myself or just the depth of the human experience is changed. Like it's completely changed. So I try to go in just whatever comes to me.
So I have a kind of funny one. So this is one that to me, only works in a float tank. But maybe saw my video on this. I posted it a long time ago though. So like you ever had like where you can get like really crazy body high meditations, right? You get some meditations where like the body high is like the thing that's going off. You're kind of just buzzing all over, right? So did you ever see the video I made on this? Does this sound familiar?
It doesn't sound familiar.
Okay. So this one was good. You should try this. You should try this in your next float. So first of all, you have to get calm and relaxed. So however you want to do that, follow your breath or whatever, right? But then on every exhale, right? At like the bottom of the exhale is like when you're at your most relaxed, right? You inhale, heart rate speeds up a little bit, exhale. That's when you get your most relaxed state. So at the bottom of the exhale, what you got to do is you got to flex your coming muscle, right? Just a little flex of that and it gets this little like buzz going, right? And then as you can make that your object of attention as you come back to it, right? On every exhale, you ping that feeling, and then the feeling will start to buzz out. And then you can get this whole crazy body high, get chicken skin going on now about it. You get like this whole body high buzz going with it. And so I don't know, can be quite interesting. It's
Yeah.
not quite like coming the whole time, but it does it does feel pretty good.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense that you're bringing like that conscious relaxation to the body, right? Like the body's this 3D interaction with, bringing your subconscious and conscious together in a 3D interaction in this version of reality. So if you're in that super relaxed state and there is no other stimulus, right? Like you're deprived, essentially, your body is one looking for something, right? Your body, like there are times where I'm meditating and I'll have an itch, right? And I'll be like, is that a real itch? Or is that my body looking for a way to get out of the meditation state because of discomfort or whatever it is? So it would make sense that you could hijack that and use it for stimulation, or use it for like your body kind of mirroring the relaxed, calming state that your consciousness is going through.
Yeah.
I had something like oddly enough, I mean, it's kind of so I had a experience like that in church at one point, like where everyone was going up to receive the Eucharist. I didn't go up. I was just kneeling. I wasn't even praying, but I was just so like gone, right? But I was still there. Obviously I was so gone. And like my whole body like was just like, they had that buzz, like had that energetic vibration that was just like I was like, oh, and it snapped me. I mean, the fucked up part about it is that's what also takes you out of that state, right? Like the realization that you're experiencing that is also what takes you away from that state. So it is like this balance of allowing it to be what it is, accepting it, but not, same thing as the dream world, not putting too much into it, because that could also bring you out of it.
Yeah. Learning to walk that middle line, right? Yeah. You can still keep your attention, stay there, but just,
that razor's edge.
Yeah.
It's the way to go through life too, right? It's just like the mirror of it all. It's like just it always works out that way. Dude, thank you so much, man. This was so informative, and I want to try to, like, I had a fear behind lucid dreaming and watching your videos, and you do talk about some stuff that comes up, and then I'm like, oh, that sounds horrifying. Like, you know what I mean? Like
some of the scary ones.
Yeah, like some of the
sleep demon.
Yeah, like
that fucker.
That stuff like coming up, but like there's something to that to me, in my opinion, is like there's something to address there, right? Like that's occurring for a reason, and whether you know that on the conscious level or it's happening on the subconscious level, it's coming forward. So to address that and to look at that and dissect that, honestly, there's healing in that too, right? There's something there that you could use that experience and learn and change and grow.
Yeah. Like, I think that's kind of like a double-edged, like, so I got the one part of my mind that will be like, hey, show me like unified consciousness, and my my mental block would be like, nope. But then on the other side of that too, when I'm seeing the sleep paralysis demon and it's grabbing me and I'm feeling like I'm being possessed, I'm not actually like, because I'm so strong in this, I think I'm probably fine and safe. It lets me explore those areas, really without much fear on it. But really, it's more interesting to me, I think, if anything else, right? Like when I was trying to get the sleep paralysis demon to show up and all of that, it was an interest in it that was really getting me to go there than being fearful of it or whatever.
Yeah. And then the conquering that experience with, ultimately, like you said, like hugs and love, right? Like giving that experience hugs and loves, and it may not be reciprocated, but ultimately, like, it's how you show up in the world. And if you could take those experiences whether it be a sleep paralysis demon or a bad experience in a float tank or whatever it is, or even just your interactions with someone honking behind you at the red light, if you could shine or give it a hug or give it love and be like, all right, man, like and not, not heighten the energy, right? And you can reciprocate it with love and say, all right, like, I got you. All right, cool, man. Like that's a healthier way to navigate life.
True that. Yep.
Dude, thank you so much, man. Where can people connect with you? Where can people watch your videos? Where can people get a tutorial from you on how to lucid dream?
So if anybody wants tutorials, man, just email me. I'm in this to try and help people out. So, yeah, just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help anybody. You can email me at lucidexplorers@yahoo.com or hit me up on Instagram at lucid_explorers or on YouTube at youtube.com/lucid explorers. And yeah, guess that's it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, dude.
Plus, if you come to Oahu, hit me up.
For sure. I appreciate it, man.
Okay. Right
Take
on.
care, brother.
Dudes.
Be well.
All right. Aloha.